Welcome to the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. If you're watching on YouTube or listening on Apple Podcast, please follow, hit the like button, or any subscribes. It really helps us with the algorithms. Santa Cruz Coffee Break is produced by the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum. All opinions are those of the speakers. We invite you to join us on the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF for more fun. Now, let's get on with this installment of Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Welcome to the 99th. 99th.
Wow.
That's
Yeah.
like 9.
Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum podcast. And I never thought we'd get this far, but we apparently have. And today we want to welcome in Tim Dingus from Drum and Strum Music in beautiful Virginia. So welcome in, Tim, and good to have you.
Well, happy to be here. Appreciate you inviting me on.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting little forum of that's probably a pretty good word for that forum of dealers that now we're talking to, and it's amazing how different everybody is, and yet still maintaining a store, brick and mortar.
Yeah. It's not for the weak.
Yeah, that's I think that's a general consensus all the way along. But how'd you get started? What brought you to music?
Man, I've been a really a very blessed person my entire life. I can't think of a time in life where just good things haven't come to me. And anyway, God has blessed me greatly. And when I was a young person, when I was a kid, I was in school, and school was not for me. What's up, buddy? Come on up, B.
Yeah.
The school was not for me. Biscuit, what are you doing, my cat? Anyway, so I was in high school, and I did not like it. And I ended up dropping out of high school because I didn't want to be there anymore. And my mother was always very supportive of me. And she asked me, she was like, well, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I guess I got to get a job. She goes, yeah, you got to get a job. And I kind of looked around for a job for a little bit and did some interviews. And this is back in, late 80s, early 90s. And so I came home one day. I had been out doing job interviews, and I came home, and I was a big guitar player. I started playing guitar when I was like 15. At this point, I was like 18, getting ready to turn 18. And when I got home, she said, how about we start a music store? And I said, cool, let's do it. And so, I mean, what kid wouldn't say
Yeah.
And so anyway, that's where it all started, because of my mom. And so we did, and that was like 89 is when we started talking about it. And then we opened in May of 1990, and we just looked all around the areas in Virginia and chose Warrenton. And we came here, and we've been here ever since, and it's always been a family-run business. When we started and opened it, it was a lot different. It was a different world back then, compared to where we are now. But when we opened the store, we weren't in this location where we are now, but we were across town. And it was Mom was really active in the store. She was the brains behind everything. I mean, she was the smartest woman I ever knew. And she was a people person. So her people skills were just, off the charts. So she taught me a lot. But she started the store. We all started it together. She knew nothing about music. She just had great people skills. And so we started the store together. And my sister was involved at that point, and my dad, the whole family was involved. And anyway, that's where we started. And this is where we are now, and a lot's happened since then, obviously. But, through all the changes, we're still here today.
Okay.
Truly amazing.
So it wasn't a situation where you were the strummer and she was the drummer.
Yeah, well, my sister was actually the drummer.
I thought that.
Okay.
My sister was the drummer, and she still is the drummer. But yeah, she left the store I guess it was about like late 90s, early 2000s is when she stepped away to start her family. And it was kind of left to me to kind of take the direction. And like all stores, you can't do the same thing forever. You have to adapt and kind of change things and do, try different things. So we gradually got further away from the drumming part and more into the strumming part. And we had always carried a lot of guitars, but in our most recent, we came to the location we're in now. We moved here in July of 2014. And when we moved here, I kind of looked at everything, and a lot has changed. We had the economic downturn of 2008, and a lot of stuff had just been up and down and up and down. And when we moved here, I was thinking, what can I really do? What can I do that's going to be different? What's going to be the next move? And we started our relationship with Santa Cruz in 2005. Okay, so and that was a long time ago now, but
Yeah.
but when and acoustic guitars had always just been at my heart. That's really what I have the passion for. We do a great number of them, but acoustic guitars, new ones, old ones, all that stuff. And so when we moved to this location, I really wanted to build like a destination, like a boutique showroom, because there's nothing else like that in the DC area. And even though we're in Virginia, we're really close to Northern Virginia, and the Washington DC area and Maryland. And there's nothing like that really, anywhere around here that exists at all. So that was really kind of what I focused on doing, and we have a number of brands that we do besides Santa Cruz. A number of really good builders. We do a large number of vintage instruments, and we do a huge number of music lessons. We do have a huge repair department where we'll do anything and everything, from minor repairs and setups to major repairs, vintage. We do anything you name it, and we can do it.
Do you do amps in there? Do you do electronics in there?
I have a guy that does amplifiers. It's not
There
me,
you go.
but yeah, but I do have a guy that does amplifiers.
There you go. Fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
just,
If you're close to Washington, D.C., does that mean all the big political movers and shakers hang out at your shop in order to buy high-end guitars?
We get a lot of people through here. We really do. And it's the people that travel through here, especially like on the weekends, we'll get like tons of people out from DC, from Maryland. We get quite a bit of traffic from DC.
that's great.
Yeah.
That whole area is really kind of condensed.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. I mean, for me to go to Santa Cruz, it's 50 miles. And I just think about that's fine. I mean, like, that's what I'm going to do now for the next couple hours, is go out there. But that whole East Coast is so condensed. Did I see on your website that you have a performing stage?
We do. Yeah, we do. And the back room, which is actually the back room kind of doubles as the main acoustic room. And the stage is in here, and we do a large number of performances back here. We'll do, I don't know, we generally do maybe like once a month now. I mean, over the years we used to do a lot more shows than what we do now, but we've kind of condensed it down to like once a month where we'll do stuff, but we get a large number of different artists come through, do workshops, all sorts of different things like that.
That's really great.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And it's all part of it, you know what I mean? Because it's kind of, you can't have one thing without the other, It's just like with the guitars comes the people wanting to perform, and, and the repairs come with all that, and the lessons go with all that, and it's all just part of a bigger thing, than just one specific thing. And I think that's what it takes to run a store, really. You have to be really diversified and able to do many different things, because if you try to just, especially in today's market, if you try to just do one thing, you're not going to do that for very long. It's, you have to be diversified in order to succeed, I think.
I think in everybody that we've talked to, I think that that's a pretty common theme, is
Yeah.
that you guys have really, and it's different than a grocery store or something like that. I mean, you've really had to adjust to the times.
Oh yeah.
It's not the same thing. If it was the same thing as it was 30 years ago, it'd be gone.
Yeah. You're
You
exactly
know,
right. Yeah.
it'd be gone. And I love the idea of a performer stage and probably the quiet acoustic room.
Yeah.
I, I don't know if I did see some electrics on there, so I'm sure that there's some place that somebody makes some noise in that place.
Yeah. Yeah. There we've got a big store, so there's lots of room for everybody.
That's really great.
Yeah.
I would like to ask, now that talking about all the things that you have to do now and that you've figured out to make work, what's probably the most important thing that if you had a chance to go back and tell yourself 30 years ago, what would be the one thing you'd try to emphasize to yourself getting into this business?
I'd buy a bunch of Bitcoin. My mother told me to do that. My mom, she was a wisdom. She was just a wealth of knowledge. And I remember when Bitcoin came out, she told me, she goes, honey, have you heard about this Bitcoin thing? I said, no, Mom. And she goes, well, it's this Bitcoin and it's going to be worth millions of dollars. You should make $100 and go buy some of it. And I was, and of course, like many things that I didn't do that my mother told me to do, that was not, that was one of them that I didn't do. And I look back and I'm like, man, should have bought that Bitcoin. But anyway,
Yeah.
anyway, I don't know, the world has changed so much, from you go back 30 years ago, it was a different time completely, because anything pre-internet, right? And I'm really thankful for that because of the fact that, I'm 52 now. When we started the store, I was 17, just getting ready to turn 18. And when we started the store, I mean, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world because I got those, and especially in the music industry, right? Because I got those years, although it was a short window, I got those years to experience, being in the shop, you ran your ad in the phone book, people came in, they talked to you, they called you on the phone, people came, there was not this whole thing of looking on the internet to see what everybody had in stock. And then, it was truly, and I tell younger people about this today, I'm like, man, there was nothing like the feeling of going down to a guitar shop you hadn't been to and going in and going on a treasure hunt because you didn't know what you were going to find. Nobody knew it was there unless you went there. And it's just, the world's so much different now. And to be able to have been a part of that and to have the store, back when every week there were old Martins and Gibsons and Fenders coming through the door and, you had guitars piled up in the back room that people had dug out of their attic, and you didn't have to compete with all the internet giants and eBay, and it's just it was a different world. And I don't know, if I look back on it and I try to think about what I would have done differently, I would have probably gotten into the technology sooner than I did, because even though I'm not a big tech guy, and honestly, I could destroy every digital device that I own and be content. I could just hang out in the country and not have anything to do with that stuff. But it's not going anywhere, And obviously, there are benefits from it because if it weren't for this technology that we curse, we wouldn't be having this conversation today. So there are a lot of benefits to it. There's good to everything. You just have to find the bright side. And I don't know, I guess that would be the only thing that I would, have probably done differently would be to get more on the tech kind of end of things and seeing where that was going, for the future. Because now I feel like I'm constantly chasing it,
Yeah.
And I guess there's a lot of people, and shoot, I know a lot of guys that are still in the business that don't even have a website, they don't have a website, they don't do anything, and I'm like, how do you even survive,
Yeah.
And I don't know, man, I went off on a tangent.
No.
That's yeah.
No, I was when you said that you had a vintage stash. or a vintage market.
Hmm.
I was wondering, I spent a little time down in that area, and I was wondering, because folk music and music, acoustic music,
Hmm.
came from, really blew up from there, you
Oh
know.
yeah, absolutely.
And there were a lot of really, really great instruments that went into that area. Uh,
Yep.
does the diamond walk in that's been under the case, under the bed for 30 years? And
It still does occasionally.
yeah,
We'll get stuff like that, and it's gotten fewer and further between.
sure.
And like I said, that used to be a weekly occurrence. People would bring old stuff in and just lay it up on the counter, and and again, the internet didn't exist, so because now we're in this market where everybody thinks just because they've got an old Gibson or an old Martin, it's worth $100,000 because they
Yeah.
sell them on the internet that's worth $100,000. So it's
You
really
saw it on Pawn Stars.
it's exactly. And it's just like Barrett Jackson and old cars. You remember when you used to see old Chevy sitting around the fields everywhere, and now people are selling them for 30 and 40 and $50,000, and
Yeah.
um, it's happened to everything, but it's I don't know. It's definitely changed a lot of things, but we do get stuff in still. We get stuff in. We do a large number of. We do not only purchase a large number of instruments, but we do a large number of consignments. We broker a lot of instruments for people, so we still get a lot of stuff in through like that. A lot of pre-war, instruments.
Yeah.
40s and 50s instruments, stuff like that.
Yeah, they pretty much dried up in California, unless you're, uh,
Yeah.
really on the inside of things. But we have the luthiers, I mean, there's this whole group of builders, Richard being probably number one or number two,
Hmm.
of this group.
Yeah.
And he's mentored everybody else. So we see some pretty interesting luthier guitars come around,
Yeah.
but not so much the old stuff, unless
Yeah.
you go to San Francisco, or, and you go to Griffin or something like that, and
Yeah. Yeah.
then
Yeah.
you might I'd see one or two. But I remember that I think I bought a Les Paul Jr. for $45 in a perfect double cut, in the alligator case, down in
Yeah.
Virginia.
Yeah.
So I always, I wonder if they're still out there, and who knows?
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is still out there,
That's hopeful.
and I'm always thinking about that, especially when I have to travel or stuff. And we've got a lot of my family is down in Southwest Virginia, like Southwest Virginia, Eastern Kentucky, kind of like bluegrass country. That's where
Yeah,
where I go down to visit family, and I'm down there and I'm driving through the mountains. I'm just looking around and I'm like, man, I wonder how many old Martin guitars are laying underneath beds around here,
yeah, yeah,
And I think there's still a lot out there, there has to be, because there's you still see them pop up, and you hear people saying, "Oh, I've got an old guitar," or "I've got, my uncle has an old guitar," or whatever. But
yeah.
I still hope.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Call, call.
I try to be optimistic. Yeah.
Um, Pat,
Well, I was just going to ask a little bit more. So you say you have lessons. Are they local guitarists? Are they employees? How do you handle that? What kind of arrangements do you make?
We have all our studios here at the store.
okay.
And we have, I guess, right now, we've got about 17 or 18 different instructors that teach.
Wow.
We do everything. We do everything from guitar, mandolin, bass, violin, piano, voice, drums, you name it. And Jack, whose computer I'm using, is one of our instructors. And Jack does, guitar, mandolin, just you name it, he teaches it. He's one of those strings guy that can just pick up anything with strings on it and just start putting everybody to shame. So.
Yeah.
No, those people.
But that's the cool thing too about being here as long as we have is we know everybody, right? We know everybody, and especially being in this area, and like we had mentioned, being so close to DC. I mean, so many people pass by here, right? I mean, because if you're going up and down the road, you've basically got to basically pass through our area. And we've built a lot of relationships over the years and gotten to know a lot of really cool people. And because of that, word of mouth, we've developed a really tight network of what I think are just some of the best instructors you'll find anywhere on the East Coast. And again, I feel very blessed, very fortunate about that. Because we have several hundred students. They come through every week, and even though you might not sell the same number of guitars every week, you still have all those smiling faces come through, waiting to take their music lesson and to, bring their guitar in to be fixed. And, so.
How
I was going to ask, who are your students? Are they young people? Are they older people?
It's everybody.
Everybody.
It is everybody. And that's the thing. And I tell people this all the time because I'm like, man, this is the only business I can think of. And I've really kind of tried to think about it and compare it to other businesses. But, and it's like the other week, and I tell everybody the same story. It was a couple of weeks ago, man. I'm coming in the shop, and there is a retired Army general and a kid who's probably 18 years old, high as a kite. And they're both sitting there on the bench waiting for their music lessons, having the greatest conversation. And I'm like, the music business is the only place that you would see this. You're not going to see this in any other industry. You're not going to see it, but these guys shared that bond of music, and they were both just in there, just even though they came from completely different sides of the world, they were sitting there connecting, because they were waiting for their music lessons. So we see everybody, man. I mean, we see everybody from kids that are, as young as 4 or 5 years old, to people like, I think our oldest student probably has been like in their 90s,
Wow.
So, and all different backgrounds, all different backgrounds, from professionals to people that just, are,
Great.
you name it, it's everyone. And it's impossible, because I have marketing people that help me, and they're like, so who are we targeting? Who are we going after? I'm like, how am I supposed to explain that?
Americans.
Americans, exactly.
humanoid types?
Humanoid, yeah, exactly.
Preferably 10 fingers.
Yeah, but yeah, it worked for Django. So I mean,
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
He didn't need them all.
Yep.
I was wondering, when you do have an internet presence.
Yes. Yep.
I'm pretty rural. Tad's up in the city, but I'm pretty rural. And to go into Guitar Center, per se, and you see people in there, and they're just taking pictures of the price tag.
Oh yeah.
And then they're surfing it to see if they can get something different.
Yep.
And I wonder if that's any kind of competition thing that you kind of deal with, or do you have more of a, how does one say, advanced clientele?
Well, I think anybody in the business deals with that, right? I mean, as long as the computer exists, we're always gonna deal with that. And we kind of deal with it a little bit less. Just because of the stuff that we carry, we do a lot of more mainstream kind of stuff. We do that because, we're a store, right? We have to have things that people know about. But, as I mentioned before, when we moved the store to where it is, here in 14, I had been round and round with, in the business over the years, and watching the internet grow and sales shrink and all this stuff. And I had really thought about it, and I was like, man, what do I want to do, right? If I'm going to stay in this retail game, which direction do I want to go in? What's going to be the new plan? And I kind of got away from all that stuff. We stopped being a Martin dealer like in 2012. Just because we weren't making any money selling Martin guitars anymore, unless they were old ones, because everybody would come in and they would want it for less than what I paid for it, and they could get it down the road from the factory for for that price. And so, I just kind of got tired of all that stuff, and I kind of really started to just kind of focus on the less produced, more handmade stuff, like the Santa Cruz. And Santa Cruz, gosh, Richard, and I've had many conversations with Richard over the years, and I tell it to everybody. Richard Hoover is one of the smartest people I've ever met in my entire life. That guy is an absolute visionary, and I mean, he really is. He's the sweetest guy. He's a great human being. And he had a plan, and he knew what he wanted to do, and he knew how to go about doing it. And his vision for Santa Cruz and what they've done, I mean, they've just been such a great leader in the industry, for other companies, to follow and to get behind. And
Yeah.
it's really incredible to see what they've done and the market that exists today. I mean, we're living in like the second golden era. Everybody talks about the golden era, in the 30s and all the great guitars. And I admit, I've got a bunch of those old guitars and I love them. But man, if I'm going to pick up a guitar to go take and sit, play, I'll grab my Santa Cruz. Because you know what? It always stays in tune. It always sounds great. Old houses are like old cars, or old guitars are like old houses or old cars, and they require a lot of attention. But the new guitars that they're making today they just can't be beat, because they're using the traditions of those old guitars with modern technology, and it's incredible. But so when we moved up here and we started doing this, I really, the Santa Cruz was a big part of what we've done, as well as the other smaller, boutique builders. We do a lot, Thompson, pre-war, Loudon, I don't know, Gallagher. We do a lot of different builders. But that kind of, getting back to where you started this whole thing, that kind of sets us apart. So when people come in here kind of looking at our showroom at what we've got, the most mainstream thing we have is like Taylor and Eastman and Yamaha. We do those. But most of the other stuff, I have to tell people what it is. When they look up on the number, they're like, "What is Santa? What Santa?" And then we'll go into the whole story, and I'll give them a guitar lesson about all the great guitars of the world that they've never heard of. But we get a lot of people that are traveling in that have done their homework, right? And they'll know as much as I do when they start looking up on the wall, and and they've got their notepad and they're sitting there talking about guitars. But it's a different world, man. It's completely different. And I think we're at the infancy. I don't think we've seen, now that AI's out, right? I don't think we've seen anything yet. I mean, what the internet started kicking in around 2005, really. I guess that's really when it started, kind of like when I remember it really starting to, you would hear about it and you would start to see the effects of it. And, not 2005, golly, my brain, earlier than that. But anyway, I think we're at the infancy of it. I don't think we've seen anything of the technology and of the internet where it's going to go, from here, and online sales and things like that. I think it's completely, I think the whole model is still going to be a lot different.
That's probably really true.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. But it's funny. My wife uses AI a lot, and for her, it's great.
Yeah.
The way she uses it to work with clients, it's great. For me, I don't know. I don't know what it's going to do, but for me, but I'll age out before that. Before that becomes a question in my mind. Hey, Tad.
Yeah.
You got anything else?
I was going to put him on the spot.
Go for it.
Spot.
What's your favorite model Santa Cruz?
H13.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's Richard's. That is Richard's primo. That's the one. That is his design, his idea.
Yep.
Everything else about it. It's a spectacular instrument. Some of the Happies. I've heard three of the Happy Troms, and
yeah,
they're
incredible.
Yeah, it's interesting that you talk about, because you mentioned a lot of dealers that I think I didn't really realize they had representation like Thompson.
Mhm.
A friend of mine in LA, Eric Garcia, a studio player, has a couple three, and he goes out, yeah. He's in demand, but just amazing stuff, and when somebody plays a boutique guitar or a handmade guitar for the first time,
Mhm.
nothing like it.
It's good.
Yeah.
Completely. They're like, what, what, how did I never know about this?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they think they've got the greatest guitar in the world, and then you put it in their hand, and they're just their eyes light up, and it's like somebody turned the lights on.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
complete.
It's how I came to my first Santa Cruz, and certainly it was a wonderful thing.
Yeah,
Um,
and it
Tim,
spoils because you can't play a cheap guitar after that. Well, I guess you can, but
Well, yeah, it's a lot harder
it's a
yeah,
lot.
on many levels.
uh, Tim, you've been so gracious with your time. We really appreciate this. We'll put links up to Drum and Strum when we post this, and share it around. You're more than welcome to do the same thing, and go have a humidity-free Virginia afternoon.
I appreciate that. I'll try my best.
Thank you very much,
So,
Tim.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. It was good talking to you.
yeah, thanks very much. Take care.
We hope you enjoyed this installment of the Santa Cruz Coffee Break. For more music-related fun, please join the Santa Cruz Guitar Players Forum at SCGCPF or santacruzguitarplayers.com. If you have any questions or possible podcast topics, please contact us. If you have a product or service that you feel would be of value to our listeners, please consider adding your support and keeping the coffee pot on. Contact us for more information. We ask that you hit the like, follow, bell, or bookmark buttons so we can keep you informed of upcoming podcast episodes. We hope you enjoyed Santa Cruz Coffee Break. Now it's time to go play your guitar.